Hi, everyone. I'm Steve Adubato. It is our honor to welcome United States Representative Tom Malinowski from the 7th Congressional District. Congressman, great to have you with us.
Great to be here. Thank you.
So I'm going to make this clear to everyone. I'm going to say it a couple of times in case you catch us at different times. There are races across this nation for United States Congress, the lower house, as well as the U.S. Senate. One of the key races in the nation, not just the state, is the 7th Congressional District with incumbent Tom Malinowski and his Republican opponent, former state Senator Tom Kean. Here's the deal. We reached out for Senator Kean. I did personally. Our team did as well. There's been no response. There has been consistently no response from the senator or his campaign to participate in any public discourse around these issues. It's a fact. It's not an opinion. I'm going to remind folks, if they're wondering, where's the other side? Congressman, why do you believe it's been so difficult to engage your Republican opponent, Tom Kean, in a public discussion, debate, whatever you want to call it?
I don't know. I don't know. I find it bizarre. I think it is a basic fundamental duty if you are seeking to represent people, that you talk to people, that you answer their questions directly at public meetings, at town hall meetings, and of course through the press. I have always tried to make myself accessible. I sometimes get tough questions, which is your job to ask me. I simply don't understand why someone would even want this job and refuse to do what I think is a basic responsibility of the job. But it's the choice he's made. I think it'll disadvantage him in this campaign. Maybe he's hoping that all the money coming in from these big Republican super PACs for TV ads will be enough to carry him across the finish line. But I think the voters of my district were very engaged politically, very, very educated. I think they want a representative who's going to be accessible to them, and he's not that.
Congressman, your TV ads, the one that I see that many have seen, and you've spent a fair amount of money on media in this campaign, they target Tom Kean, saying that, quote, he would be with the former President Donald Trump under any circumstances, regardless of whatever. Why is that an issue when we're dealing with inflation, when we're dealing with healthcare issues post, if you will, the pandemic, while there's a potential recession hitting us? Why is that an issue when there are so many issues directly impacting and problems directly impacting citizens of our state and nation?
First of all, I think the economy is the #1 issue in this election, and I've been talking about it. I'm going to continue to talk about it. I am running first and foremost on our record in the United States Congress in the last year in bringing the economy back from the dead, from the pandemic, and now dealing with the cost of living issues that people are facing by passing legislation to lower the cost of prescription drugs, by passing the CHIPS Act to fix our broken supply chains, particularly for advanced manufacturing. But at the same time, like you cannot ignore the fact that there's something abnormal happening in our politics right now, that there's a major political party that is being taken over by people who are not traditional Republicans, by people who are willing to use lies and violence to hold on to power as president.
But that's not Tom Kean. Respectfully, I'm sorry for interrupting, Congressman, but Tom Kean has been a moderate Republican. If you will, his father, Tom Kean, one of the most respected and revered governors in the history of this nation, a moderate. He's not part of that wing of the party.
His father's not part of that wing of the party. But as I point out in my ad, Tom Kean Jr., in the Republican primary, in our race this year, said in his own words that he is running to support the Trump agenda, that he would, quote, have Trump's back no matter what Trump does. So it's very, very important you understand. I'm not accusing him of this. I'm simply pointing out what he said himself when he was running in the Republican primary. Virtually every other senior Republican elected official in New Jersey has at one point or another tried to distance themselves from the MAGA wing of the party. When the Republican National Committee famously or infamously said that the violence on January 6th was just an expression of normal political discourse. Virtually every other Republican in New Jersey said, that's not me. Tom Kean.
What did Tom Kean say about January 6th?
Nothing, nothing. And it's one reason I think he doesn't want to come on your show, because I assume you would ask him these questions. And
I would.
And he doesn't, you know, perhaps he's afraid of saying anything, and he's afraid of offending moderates. He's afraid of offending the MAGA crowd. But he either believes in this MAGA nonsense, or he doesn't, and he's simply pandering to it because he's afraid to stand up to this force in the party. And I think that's important to bring out, because this isn't a game. The survival of our democracy very much hangs in the balance right now. We can agree or disagree about issues like, you know, what the corporate tax rate should be,
Sure,
how much environmental regulation they should be. If I lose an argument on those issues, I'm not losing my country. But if we elect people who are willing to use violence and lies to overturn election results, that's a very, very different situation.
So we're talking to United States Congressman Tom Malinowski, the 7th Congressional District, one of the most significant races in the nation that could, in fact, directly impact the balance of power in the United States Congress, with Democrats in control right now and Republicans with a chance to take over the lower house. That being said, if you're wondering why Congressman Malinowski's Republican opponent, former Senator Tom Kean, is not with us, I reached out, our team reached out, no response. It was not a rejection of appearing on our program. It was no response, just to clarify. And if you want to know, you can reach out to the former senator himself and his campaign. They can tell you why they're not appearing. Let me ask you this. The issue of abortion, the Roe v. Wade overturning by the United States Supreme Court, is a major issue in this campaign and in this nation now because?
It's important to us because we're all Americans. I may live in New Jersey, you may live in New Jersey, but we all have people we love, people we care about, who live and work and study in other states. And for half the states in this country, this is the way this is going right now, to be passing laws that treat women and doctors as criminals for making healthcare decisions that were perfectly legal in this country for 50 years, treating potentially women as criminals for having miscarriages that might be mischaracterized as abortions, potentially even prohibiting women from crossing state lines to get healthcare. Of course, that's an issue for all of us, including those of us who live in New Jersey. And then number two, yeah, the Supreme Court said it's just up to the states, but the Republican Party in Congress has made clear that if they take back the majority, they are going to try to pass a nationwide ban on abortion that will override our law in New Jersey.
Well, hold on. Tom Kean has said he is pro-choice.
He has said that he is pro-choice at times, but he voted on his last day in the state Senate this January, he voted against codifying Roe v. Wade to protect women in New Jersey. So I don't care what he says, I care about what he does. And by the way, in terms of what he says, during the Republican primary, he put up a kind of special conservative website that was kind of hidden from the public, in which he said that he would, quote, fight to protect the sanctity of life in Congress, that he would oppose the legislation the Democrats have put forward in New Jersey and in the Congress to codify Roe v. Wade to protect women across this country and in New Jersey. So again, here there's a very clear distinction. I'm for codifying Roe v. Wade for the country. He voted against codifying Roe v. Wade for New Jersey.
Okay, to be clear, I would have asked former State Senator Tom Kean that exact question about publicly being pro-choice and how the congressman described his last vote in the Senate to not support the codifying of Roe v. Wade in the state of New Jersey, and his statements that the congressman just referred to were unable to do that because the senator opted not to join us. One more question I'll go back to the issue of inflation. The Inflation Reduction Act. Many have argued that inflation has gotten worse under the Biden administration. To what degree do you hold President Biden responsible, his policies responsible, for the terrible situation regarding the cost of living in this state, in this nation, inflation? Some of it has to fall at the feet of the White House.
Look, it's perfectly understandable that people hold the president in power and the Congress in power, including me, responsible for solving this problem. We're there. We're the decision makers. I accept
Right.
that responsibility. We had a situation 2 years ago in this country where we had tens of millions of people unemployed. Almost every small business in the towns I represent was shut down because of the COVID pandemic. And most of the economists in the country were saying, if you don't do something big and fast, those jobs are not coming back. Those businesses are dead. So we did something big and fast. We spent a huge amount of money, and we were successful in saving those jobs and those businesses. Now we have a responsibility to save the paychecks that go with those jobs by dealing with the inflation that came about because we brought back consumer spending before bringing back the supply chains that supply us with all the stuff that we want to buy. So what are we doing? We passed the CHIPS and Science Act to deal with—
Explain to everyone what CHIPS means.
Microchips, which I think most of us are beginning to recognize. It's like the oil of the 21st century. Everything's powered by microchips. And one reason, for example, why cars have been so expensive in the last year is that any new car today is made with hundreds of microchips, and there's a huge shortage, and they're not made in America anymore. So we passed this bill to bring the manufacturing of that critical technology and others home to the United States. We passed legislation to lower the cost of prescription drugs. Remember, this is something President Trump ran on in 2016. Let Medicare negotiate lower drug prices. He didn't get it done. We just did. Overwhelmingly popular in the United States because it's the right thing to do. Keeping health insurance costs under control, which we also just did. And
a few seconds left, Congressman. Go ahead.
So again, I think this is a difference. Like, we're doing stuff. We're passing legislation that actually is going to lower the cost of living for a lot of folks and deal with these supply chain problems that are the cause of this inflation. My opponent and the Republicans, obviously they're running on inflation, but I can't find anywhere on their websites, of course they don't do interviews, what they're going to do about it. It almost seems to me that they'd rather run on the problem than propose a solution.
In that spirit, because we weren't able to cover a whole range of issues, including gun safety, a range of issues, childcare, I'm going to ask folks to, in post-production, if we could put up the Congressman's website of his campaign to find out exactly where he stands on those issues. If people can go on to former Senator Kane's website to find out where he stands on the issues. Once again, we were hoping to have Tom Kane Jr. join us. We were not able to do that because he and his campaign opted not to respond to our request. Congressman Malinowski, we thank you for joining us. All the best.
Thank you, and I'm happy to come on anytime you like.
Thank you. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
I'm Tim Sullivan, CEO of the New Jersey Economic Development Authority. Since joining the NJEDA, I've been struck by the incredible assets and resources that New Jersey has to offer. The NJEDA is working every day to grow New Jersey's economy in a way that maximizes the values of those assets to benefit every single New Jersey resident. This includes more support for small businesses and a focus on reclaiming New Jersey's position as a leader in the innovation economy. Visit njeda.com to learn more about how NJEDA is building a stronger and fairer New Jersey economy.
Also brought to you by New Jersey Sharing Network, New Jersey Institute of Technology, NJIT, makes industry-ready professionals in all STEM fields. Veolia, resourcing the world. Operating Engineers, Local 825. Eastern Atlantic States Regional Council of Carpenters. The Turrell Fund, supporting Reimagine Childcare. The New Jersey Economic Development Authority. And by Choose New Jersey,